Good evening and welcome to yet another exclusive discussion or interview of the GA agenda, where we are having an opportunity to interview officials, or rather to have discussions with officials of the 23rd General Assembly. My name is Aida Munzati, and today we are having an exclusive interview with a man of God who got into office, that is in April 2020. Later on came the COVID-19 pandemic. So tonight we are understanding how his journey has been. Our guest today is the Deputy Secretary General serving in the 23rd General Assembly, but he also had the opportunity to serve in the 22nd General Assembly. Reverend Paul Kariuki, karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Aida, for having me to come and just interact with you in this program, together with the viewers. Thank you.
And of course, it's a pleasure to have you with us, and of course for sparing your time to just have this particular discussion with us.
Much appreciation.
All right, and to our dear viewer, remember we are also coming to you live. That's on Facebook and YouTube. That's CAC TV Kenya. Please feel free to send in your questions, comments, or inquiries. That's using the comment section on our live broadcast tonight. So just to begin, DSG, just share with us your journey into ministry, even before we look at your journey as the Deputy Secretary General.
Firstly, Aida, is to introduce myself as Reverend Paul Kariuki. I'm born again, love Lord Jesus Christ as my Savior, married to Monica Naiziae, with a son Victor and daughter Favor, Jerry, and we are grateful to serve the Lord. Now, I got ordained into the ministry at Magumoni Presbytery, that is in Chuka. And then I was posted to Gilgil Parish, that is Abadea Presbytery, where I served my full time. Then I was later given an opportunity to go for studies, further studies, at in the U.S., Columbia Theological Seminary for my master's. After which, when I came back, I was posted to Karen Parish, that is Milimani South Presbytery, where I served again for 4 years. Then was posted again to Roiro Presbytery, serving at Committee Parish, served again for 4 years, after which I was selected to the office of the DSG. That is, should be 2019 December. Then I was installed as the DSG in April 2020. Yes.
And with your ministry and from all the parishes that you are serving, of course, as a minister, did it ever occur to you, especially at the onset of your ministry, did it ever occur to you that one day you'll become the DSG of the PCA Church?
Not at all. Not at all. I didn't have this ambition. I didn't have this imagination that I would come to the helm of this church in leadership. Of course, you always think about the head office. It's too high up.
Yeah.
And of course, I would tell you that I would only come here for meetings and then I would go back. Yes, I was comfortable serving in the presbytery. Of course, you know, the presbyteries that have gone, I want to appreciate that I'm being given the leadership role, because the first presbytery, I was given as a clerk, then later as a moderator. I also served in the second presbytery as the clerk. And my last presbytery, I served as a moderator. But that is it. Never expected to be here, anywhere near here. Yes.
All right, and once again, I look at all the postings, of course, as a preparation to the office that you are holding right now. So how would you say it's been 14 years, and in just a few days to come, that's by 9th of this particular month, you'll be exiting the office. How would you say your journey has been for the last 4 years as the Deputy Secretary General of the Church?
Tough one. It's by the grace of God, and I'm grateful to God for the opportunity actually to serve. as the Deputy Secretary General of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa. To me, I think this is the epitome of leadership that God could have given me. A very humbling experience for me. Remember, Aida, I came to leadership at a time when COVID, because the elections of 2019, remember in December, January, COVID broke out. Then in March, churches were closed. Come April, it was joked that I was installed through virtual, so I became the virtual DSG. Remember, this is the first time, maybe in the history of the church, that they did a virtual meeting, just a few people allowed. And that became my journey, the beginning of my journey, a very tough experience. Because by the time I was installed, of course, there were a few people here. But remember also now the church is closed. And I remember when the handing over was done by my predecessor, Reverend Kanga, we were just the three of us in the office. We were Reverend Kanga's, the one who was handing over to me, and the office administrator, Judy. The whole of the head office, there was nobody, because everybody was home. So that is how I began my journey. Then after handing over, I went back home because we were operating from home. Then again, come July, the worst happened, because the person who was supposed to mentor me, probably as the transition officer, was the Secretary General, the late Reverend Kanye, he passed on. And therefore, even before I knew what to do here, I'm all alone. And I want to thank God because of the then moderator of the 22nd General Assembly, Right Reverend Dr. Mwamba, because he stood by me. But remember, we were preparing for elections again, beginning around October, so that we could do the elections for the 23rd General Assembly in December. And there I was to manage the elections. Remember, I am the deputy, and I am the Secretary General, acting. So it was not easy, but the grace of God has been sufficient. Yes.
All right, and I'm glad that you've now gone into the issue of now serving two offices. But just to take you back in terms of some members of the Presbyterian Church saying that you were the virtual DSG. From where you were at that particular point, did you also feel that how you got into the office, of course, as a result of COVID-19, did you feel like there was no touch with the people now in ground? Because I assume if COVID-19 wasn't there, then it would be a big event, let me say, rather than having 3 people bringing you into the office.
I think Ida was prepared. Remember from the parish, I remember I preached my first sermon using my phone, right? Because the churches were closed. And I'm coming from a parish, and therefore we were so much unprepared, of course. And therefore I had to use my phone to record my first sermon before I came here. So we were getting used to the fact that there is a different kind of leadership, a different kind of setup. And therefore the digital space was becoming a reality to us. And therefore I never quite felt that there is no touch with the people, because definitely, although in the office there's nobody, we kept quite good communication with the presbyteries, finding out what is going on, how they are conducting their business. And therefore, there was always that communication. And remember also, even during the GAC that I was installed, of course, many people are following. So many people are following, So it's a new reality of virtual space. Yes.
All right. And once again, CAC TV came around that time.
Very handy. Very handy.
Most people, of course, were following the entire event. That's through CAC TV. And now to you serving two offices, that is as an acting Secretary General and a DSG. You've said, of course, that it was tough. And of course, it's not something that you expected. No one expected the death of the late Reverend Kanya. What was the toughest moment for you?
Ida, you know, yesterday the Secretary General was interviewed, and I believe viewers followed him explaining how tough that office is. The DSG's office is equally tough because you have so much in your hands. I usually joke and call myself the grounds person, mtu wa mkono, or the GA office, right? So you can imagine being the GA, the grounds person, and also the person, also the COT authority of the church. So the double role, you have a lot to do. You have a lot to do. It is not easy. Yeah, because you're managing the church. Remember, it's a COVID time. So you are making decisions as well as implementing them. So it was not as easy, definitely.
Well, and of course, whether as the DSG or whether as a minister, I want to assume that you had interacted with the late Reverend Kanya.
Yes.
Would you say there are any values, most importantly leadership values, that you'll say you borrowed from him, and maybe those are some of the things that kept you going during that particular period while you were acting as the Secretary General?
One is confidence. This is a person who was confident. He could tell you the vision. This is the direction that we need to go. Resilience. There's a person who would bounce back even if things were so bad. I remember my last drive with him is when, you know, there was the lockdown. We were in Meru. We had gone to meet the leaders in Eastern region just to prepare ourselves for the eventuality of COVID. So we had a talk with them, and then it was announced that you know, there's going to be a lockdown. I remember us speeding all the way to Nairobi because we could have been locked down at Thika. You remember the border was at Thika, the roadblock, and we were glad. We remember us giving ourselves a high five that we've made it. This is a person who believed in this church, right? This is a person who had a lot of initiatives, right? He would talk about things that he wanted done in this church. This is a person who believed in people, raising up leaders, you know? He would talk about, why don't we empower so and so? Why don't we see how we can empower this and this parish? How do we begin this and that institution? You see, there's a person who so much believed and loved this church. And I think I really borrowed from him to give my best to this church, passionately love this church, and seek its well-being and unity. I borrowed a lot. Yes.
All right, and even as you speak of giving your best, would you say that as the Deputy Secretary General of the church, have you given your best?
Ida, can tell you, I have burned the midnight oil, giving my church the best I can. Of course, there are limitations, but I have every confidence that I have done my best. Yes.
All right, and thank you so much for that. That was basically just to break the ice, of course, during this particular interview with you, and just to let our viewers at home right there, just to send in your comments and questions through our live broadcast that's on Facebook, CAC TV Kenya, as well as YouTube, that's CAC TV Kenya as well. And DSG, let us now look at the transitional nature of the particular office that you're holding right now. For someone who does not understand, for a Presbyterian who doesn't understand, or even the Kenyan that is watching, the PCA church is quite a big church, and it has a public interest, let me say. So for someone who doesn't understand the transitional nature of your office, what exactly does it mean when we say that the Deputy Secretary General office is a transitional office?
Indeed, it is not the office of the Deputy Secretary General. The crafters of our practice and procedure manual that guides this church as our constitution, they have this wisdom to make sure that there is always an officer who is left when the others are leaving. Like when I was coming to the office, it was the Secretary General who was the transitional officer.
Okay.
Right? And of course, that would mean that the moderator would be exiting, the honorary treasurer would be exiting, the deputy secretary general was exiting, and therefore the person who was continuing in office is the transition officer, and that time it was the secretary general.
Okay.
So it is so planned that the next round, it will be the deputy secretary general who would be the transitional officer. So in between now the 22nd and 23rd General Assembly, I was a transitional officer. That means the moderator was leaving office, the secretary general was leaving the office, and that is when Reverend Dr. Wahenya was elected. That is when Right Reverend Mutai Thego was elected. I was not being elected because I was the one who was managing the elections. The honorary treasurer was being re-elected. And that means the only person who would transit the others would be the deputy secretary general. Now you do your 4 years, and then the next one is the secretary general, right now, who is a transitional officer. Because the secretary general is going for 6 years, so he was not being elected or re-elected. His term continues for the next 3 years. But the moderator was being elected, the deputy secretary general was being elected, the honorary treasurer was being elected. So automatically the secretary general becomes the transitional officer. So the next round again, it will be the current, the incoming deputy secretary general who would be the transitional officer. Because remember, all the other officers are going for 3 years, but the deputy will go for 4 years. So that one extra year makes him the transitional officer.
So the transition switches between the deputy secretary general and the secretary general.
You're right.
All right.
You're right.
And as the deputy secretary general, what are your roles?
Oh, quite a number. I told you that the deputy secretary general is the groundsman. You are everything, because it's you. Like in your office, you have somebody to get the camera, you get somebody to sweep the floor. If the bulb is not working, that is the work of the deputy secretary general. Number one is to deputize the secretary general. And therefore, I am the deputy to the secretary general. If the secretary general is not in today, I step in, right? Then I'm secretary to a number of subcommittees, like the appointments committee, the secretary to the training and personnel development committee. I'm the secretary to the health board. I also happen to be the liaison person when we have visitors from abroad, and therefore I manage anything to do with work permits, right? And then I'm the HR person, so anything to do with employment, they are squarely in my office. And then every other subcommittee that is formed at the business committee, you are the convener. For example, the most common one is the boundaries committee, where any subdivision of the Presbytery, any subdivision of the parish is involved. So I become the secretary to that committee. And you'll find that mostly I'm out more than me, because most of the work will take me out. For example, as a secretary to health board, you go to the hospitals. Yes. So basically, that is the role of the deputy secretary.
All right, and it's quite a lot. You've mentioned that you're the HR, that's the human resource manager for workers at the head office alone, or?
Sorry?
Is it as a HR?
Yes.
Are you only a HR at the head office, or do you also double up as a HR now to the, let me say, the hospitals, the 3 hospitals?
Of course, you have the HR at head office, but then also remember, when you're the secretary to the appointment, you are the HR almost for all the ministers, But again, also because of being a secretary of the health board, every employment, because you're in the boards of the hospitals, right? Particularly when it comes to appointment of senior officers, you have to be in their interviews. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And yesterday, you quoted, that is the Secretary General's interview yesterday. And when we are looking at human resource management, of course, one of the things that we are looking at is the welfare of workers, these workers that you're managing as their human resource. And the Secretary General, of course, acknowledged the issues of salaries. Yeah, he acknowledged that there is a gap, and of course, as the GA officials or as the leaders of the head office, there's something you're doing about it. So how do you ensure that this employee or this minister or this person that maybe hasn't been paid for a number of time, how do you ensure their welfare? Because at times, of course, you work, but at the end of it, you're looking for that particular pay just to keep you going.
Interesting idea, because as a HR person, you're also an employee.
So
and therefore, the fate of the employees is your fate too. It's only that you're one among equals. Now, indeed, as the Secretary General alluded yesterday, it's a bit unfortunate. It's a thorny issue that we've been trying to grapple with here regarding the salaries. We definitely want everybody paid and paid in time. But again, the reality on the ground, as he said, is that we use proceeds that come from the presbyteries. So in case of any delay, it delays also our salaries here. Then again, there are some historical debts that we grapple with. He mentioned about some auctioneers that come here to demand some money. And therefore, you will find that we've entered into an engagement or an agreement with them, of course, because they have the court orders, where we have negotiated a settlement, monthly settlement of some amount. So if we were to get or generate some money right now, there are those obligations, monthly obligations, maybe from the court, that we have to pay first. Although even from our PNP and our human resource manual, salary comes first, is a priority. But then because of those obligations, first of all, we have to pay them. Or else, then we'll be in court tomorrow. So when what remains out of that is what then we distribute. And as the Secretary General said, of course, we begin with a lower cadre, the going up. So you will find that probably the officers of the General Assembly are paid last. Yes.
All right. And speaking of the HR manual, in terms of job groups, so at the head office, are there job groups? And as much as we are speaking of salaries, how do you ensure that this particular employee that is in a certain job group, how do you ensure that they are up to par when it comes to the market rate in terms of salary?
One of the good things, Ida, that during my tenure we have done is to update our HR manual. You'd remember that maybe the years past, we did it internally. But this time round, when the time came for review, we decided to seek for professionals, of course, to augment what we were doing. So this was done professionally, so that we could also look at the best practices everywhere else. So we brought HR people from other institutions, and you will find that our HR manual is greatly expanded now. It involves so much. When you talk about the salaries in terms of the levels, yes, indeed, we do make sure that everybody is per their level. And particularly this year, we wanted to carry out an appraisal, right? We had scheduled an appraisal. It's only that now the GA has caught up with us. But early on in the year, we had planned, and in fact, remember we had sensitized all the workers that would be doing an appraisal. Now, out of that appraisal, we were to bring everybody now to the level that if, in case there was anyone who probably had not been brought to the salary they deserve, that appraisal would have been guided us. And I believe there's an exercise that will continue. So by the end of this year, I believe then that everybody will be at par. Yes.
All right. And still on the HR issue, in terms of handling conflicts, because I think that's one of the duties of HR. Have you had any conflict maybe between an employee and an employee, or rather a boss and an employee? And from the HR office, or from the seat that you're sitting at right now, how do you solve these particular conflicts?
Of course, Ida, that's a very good question, because you know that we call it group dynamics. Every time you bring a few people together, definitely you know that conflict comes.
That's true.
And but conflict is how we handle it. Firstly, it's multi-level, because we have departments here. So we expect at first any conflict would be handled at the department level, so that we don't just escalate everything up there, something that could be handled by the departments. So that when it is handled by the departments and it's brought to my desk, I have a HR committee. So that HR committee is the one that sits. We have had disciplinary meetings where we've summoned people just to come and explain the issues against which probably maybe the department had raised up against them. And I can tell you we have amicably handled most of the conflicts we've had here that are work-related. Yes.
All right, and thank you so much for that. Right now, dear viewer, we'll be taking a very short break. Of course, when we come back, we'll just be looking at some of the questions that you are asking via our social media platforms. That's your comments on Facebook as well as YouTube. Remember, you can follow this particular exclusive interview with the Deputy Secretary General live on our social media pages, Facebook and YouTube. So when we come back, of course, we will be looking at the issue of reverend transfers, and we'll also get to see what is next for the Deputy Secretary General, even as he exits this particular office. So we take a very short break. Of course, we will be coming back with more.
Did you know that more than 130,000 children fail to join secondary education due to lack of school fee? Did you know you can help a child get a bright future by donating 1 shilling and 50 cents per day? Join the NCCK scholarship program today and give hope to a needy child. The NCCK scholarship program pays school fees for bright and needy children in secondary school and also gives them psychosocial support. Text ELIMU to 29888 to brighten a child's future and give them hope. Send ELIMU as an SMS to 29888, then reply with 1 to subscribe to the 29888 ELIMU for 1 shilling and 50 cents per day. When you text ELIMU to 29888, 1 shilling and 50 cents will be deducted from your airtime daily for 3 months. The NCCK Scholarship Program is an initiative of the National Council of Churches of Kenya in partnership with Saidika, a digital fundraising platform. NCCK will publicly account for all funds received from the drive. Join NCCK in changing a child's life with only 1 shilling and 50 cents daily. Text ELIMU to 29888.
Kupoteza mpendo wako ni jambo zito, kwa hivyo unahitaji mwandani wa kutembea nawe. Kwa kiwango cha shilingi 10,000 tu, runinga ya KAK ya kuhakikishia matangazo tanzia yaliyoboreshwa. Ofa hii inasheheni video ya dakika 2 na sekunde 30 itakaonakili tangazo la kifo, mipango ya mazishi, halikadhalika ujumbe maalum wa kumwomboleza mpendo wako. Yote haya ndani ya video moja. Video hii itaandaliwa kwa lugha ya Kiingereza na Kiswahili na kupeperushwa kupitia runinga ya KAK ili kukupa hakikisho la kuwafikia watu wengi. Muhimu zaidi ni kwamba familia mwenda zake itapokea video zote 2 kupitia mtandao wa WhatsApp ili kuwawezesha kuwasambazia jamaa na marafiki wa matabaka mbalimbali, wakiwemo wale walio uhaibuni. Ili kutenga nafasi ya tangazo au mawasiliano zaidi, zungumza nasi kupitia nambari za simu 0111220044 au 0110090647. Asante kwa kuichagua runinga ya KAK kuwa mwandani wako wa matangazo ya tanzia. Tupo hapa kutembea nawe katika safari ya kumkumbuka na kumwenzi mpendo wako aliyetangulia mbele za haki.
Welcome back to the GA agenda, and of course this particular evening we are having an exclusive discussion with the Deputy Secretary General, that is Reverend Paul Kariuki. Of course we have looked at his journey in ministry. We've also looked at his role as the Deputy Secretary General. Earlier on we just looked at his role as the Human Resource Manager. So right now he also mentioned of him being that is the chair of the 3 hospitals owned by the church. That is a PCEA Kikuyu Hospital, PCEA Tumutumu Hospital, and of course PCEA Chogoria Hospital. Now what exactly is your role when it comes to these particular 3 hospitals?
Ida, you have given me a very huge role of a chair. I'm not a chair.
Okay.
I only happen to be the Secretary of
Secretary.
Health.
Okay.
And by that virtue, then I'm a member of the board of the 3 hospitals. Of course, being the liaison person between the G office and the board. So I got to listen on behalf of the board, but also bring the issues to the health board.
Okay.
This is together with 1 member who is chosen by the business committee, who goes also to the board. So I go to Kikuyu, I will find 1 member sent by the business there. I go to Tumutumu, there is 1 member sent by the business, and Chogoria also. So we are the 2 of us. But then I'm the liaison person because of my role as the secretary of the health board. Yes, indeed. That is my role. Now, one of the things that, of course, now the normal board matters, right? Contributing towards the board, but also now being the secretary to the health board. So all the issues of the hospitals, remember, they are kind of passed or discussed, agreed upon by the health board. Because it is the health board that reports to the General Assembly, like in the forthcoming General Assembly. So it's the health board that will report. All the hospitals will report under that, and I happen to be the secretary of the health board. Yes.
All right, and just looking at that, of course, you being the secretary of the health board, I've noticed, of course, with my interest to health issues, there is the Health Week. So I'll want you to explain to us what is the importance of this, and as the health board, how did you decide to come up, or how did the church decide? What was the notion behind this in terms of coming up with this particular health week, and what is the objective of it?
I know, Ida, that I'm stepping into a live wire because this is your area. We have gone with you to many of our hospitals to promote the issue of health. Remember that the church has pillars of mission. One is to go and preach and build churches so that the people can be housed somewhere, whether on the four walls or virtually, whatever it is. Then again, the very people need education. So the church began schools. So that is one pillar. And another pillar is health, so that you can preach to the whole person. So it began the mission hospitals. Of course, we have myriads of clinics all over, but for now we have the three main hospitals. And of course, because of that, to sensitize people on the matters of health, the issue of health week came in. So that during that health week, the whole health board takes role to sensitize people on matters of health in the church. Of course, we line up quite a number of activities. Remember that you spearhead that week. We have a lot of programs at CAC TV. And also our hospitals carry out a lot of activities, maybe health awareness in the villages. Quite a number of activities, are lined up to create awareness so that if people are unwell in their environment, they also have a place they can run to for medical care. That is how the church evangelizes through that pillar of mission. Yes.
All right, and I'd really like to hear your view, dear viewer, when it comes to the health committee of your particular church. And my question, and please feel free to just send in your comment on the comment section right here, is the health committee of your particular church active? And now to you, DSD, how do you ensure that the health committees of all the churches are active, and that they are not just active during, for example, the health week, where there is a limelight that is being shown on them? So how do you ensure that they are active and not just in that particular time of the church's calendar?
You would understand that in our structure, there was devolvement of functions. We used to have regions, we used to have presbyterials, so we could follow up through that. But today we have the health board here at the head office, and then we have health board at the presbyteries, I mean at the parishes, and the parishes now make sure that their activities actually run through the health committees down there. But remember, we also have communication. We have communication going on. In the recent GAC, also the issue of mental health through the drugs desk was incorporated into health. And therefore, right now we have the person running the desk, the drug desk, being part of the health board, so that we're able to move not only in our parishes, but also in our institutions, and also through our hospitals. So there could be some gaps here and there, but we always try to follow up and make sure that, because the parishes thoroughly are responsible to make sure that the health committees work and report to the sessions. So that is done. But right here at the head office, we do communicate and do follow up through the regions. Yes.
All right. And earlier on, while stating your role as the Deputy Secretary General, you mentioned of as much as you're working as or you are the HR at the head office, you also play a role in these particular different institutions, even the hospitals for that matter. And at times hospitals can have, let me say, chaos. In terms of, for example, there is a death of a patient at a particular hospital, and the families, for example, are coming in with lawsuits and all those matters. I'm sure you sitting in the health board, understand this. So are there times when, for example, the CEO of Kikuyu Hospital, Chogoria Tumutumu Hospital, has had such issues, and do they escalate it to you? And from where you're sitting, how do you handle such? And has such a matter ever happened during your tenure at the DSG?
Yes, it has. Of course, you know that our community is quite litigant. There definitely would arise issues that require litigation. We do handle each case as it comes at the level of the board, right? Okay. Because definitely when such a matter arises, the board is informed. Of course, you know, the HAT, the hospital administration team, tries as much to handle the matter, but if need be, it needs to escalate to the board, the hospital board. So we rush there. If it is Kikuyu, so we are called as a board. If it's Tomotomo, we are called as a board. But in case it is an issue that needs the attention of the health board, we definitely engage our lawyer. Remember, we have a legal officer at the head office. So we refer those matters to the legal officer, who can necessarily appoint a lawyer at that level, at that location. So if it is an issue to do with Kikuyu Hospital, the legal officer here will look for the lawyer who's near Kikuyu, whom they work with to handle the matter at that level. If it is Chogoria, we'll look for a lawyer who will handle the matter at Chogoria. So, of course, there are not many, but we've had sparse, just a few cases here and there. But we've handled them amicably. Yes, we have.
Oh, all right. Even as you mentioned, of course, they are here and there.
Like one I can cite where, of course, there was a problem of numbering of the bodies, and it so happened that one family came, took a body. Unfortunately, they were given a different body, and they went and buried. Only for the other, community to come and say, this is not our body. When they went through the records, they found that they had been given the wrong body. So, of course, they would go to court. We've spent so much, exhumation and blah, and all that. Definitely we would call a board, look at how best to settle this matter, and then we are left with the discipline issues at our level, because definitely something happened. How can a body be given out in the wrong manner? So we've handled, but you see, these are very rare, very rare. In fact, that was only one. Yes.
All right, and I think, as you put it, the bottom line is to find a solution to this, and an amicable solution for that matter. So right now, let us just look at the issue of revenue transfers. Recently, we had one. Recently, we had one, and I had a question for that, but let me just give one of our viewers an opportunity to ask, and I'll just go ahead and read how she puts this particular question. That is Pleasant Kariuki. She asked, what criteria does the DSG office adopt in deciding which minister should be posted where? Urban minister is quite different from rural ministry. At times you can find a minister is not aligned with the intellectual level or social class of his congregation. A doctorate holder in a village congregation. The mismatch becomes an obstacle in service delivery on both sides, as sometimes there is no meeting point. So first, I know it's quite an elaborate or big question right there, but let's start with what criteria does your office use in terms of ministers transfer?
Of course, there is no clear-cut answer where you can say this is the criteria 1, 2, 3, 4. But generally, may I say that it's not the DSG alone who does the appointments. The secretary to the appointments committee. So what I do is that I come up with a draft of the proposal of what I would wish maybe to see the posting of personnel in this church look like. But then remember, we have to sit with the General Assembly office and look holistically at that draft. Then we subject it to the appointments committee. who will interrogate it, ask questions, present also their, their thoughts, and at the end of the day, then we come up with
A list
that so and so should go where. But generally, allow me to say this, Ida, that we look at generally at the needs of the whole church. So you don't look particularly at one place. Look at the whole church. As the person asking the question has said, remember we have Nendeni areas, we have peri-urban areas, we have rural areas, and we have even urban areas. Remember we have institutions. So you're talking about hospitals, schools, and again, remember also the staff that we're having as ministers, they are trained differently. As one has pointed out, they have diplomas, they have degrees, and also the giftings. Not all of us are gifted in the same way. So we generally look at overall all those combined, the general needs of the church. Who is to go where? What is needed where? So it's not a one-man show. We decide as a committee and as the office of the General Assembly. But basically, if I may go down to some basics, you know, our rule is that we stay for our station for 5 years. Okay. So that is the first line. How long have you stayed there? Are you 5 years plus or minus? Then you're a candidate. All right? So in spite of the fact that you are gelling or not gelling, the question is your time due? Because the PNP is 5 years plus or minus, right? The second thing we would look at, we also look at probably your history of service. Where did you serve last? How long and where did you serve last? Because I wouldn't like to post you where you had served, right? Okay. Even if your needs meet that particular parish, but remember you have probably served in that presbytery. So why not distribute, you know, take this person to a different location rather than take this person to where they served. We also consider the issues of family. You don't want to take people so far apart, right? Even if they were to begin far apart, then later you would consider, you know, posting them to a place maybe they can access home, right? Remember, this is the Presbyterian Church of East Africa. So if somebody is serving in Tanzania for 5 years, right, you don't want to post them again all the way to Uganda. Right? You'd like maybe to bring them someplace that's a bit close. The other thing we consider is the issue of transition of the presbyteries. Remember, if as the G office, we are talking about transitional officer, we want to leave one person. So supposing the moderator of the presbytery, they have done their 5 years, the clerk of the presbytery, they have done their 5 years, the treasurer, they have done their 3 years, the finance chair, they have done, so the whole of the office is moving, right? So sometimes we will consider the transition. Do we, you know, disorganize this presbytery? So probably we will take one and probably leave the other, right? So that at least we can make sure there is stability in terms of transition. The other thing we probably look at is the age. You know, there are some people who are almost retiring. You don't want to send somebody who's retiring all the way to Tanzania, right? So probably you want to post them someplace near home so that they are able to retire graciously. The other thing also we try and balance is the issue of gender, right? So that at least we try and balance and have either equal gender or reasonably. We say reasonably equal gender because sometimes you may not have, you know, the ultimate of what you desire. Then again, also there are the presbytery requests. Some presbyteries will sit down as a court. Remember, presbytery is a court. And they will present their request and say we desire 1, 2, 3. So we take seriously the consideration of the presbyteries because as a court, definitely they passed a resolution and said we would like 1, 2, 3. Either this minister to go, this minister, you know, 1, 2, 3, then would consider that. Then we can come down maybe to personal requests. There's a Zaida, is a minister, and it's not well, right? Probably the area that you are serving is too hot, and you're requesting because it's affecting your health.
Okay.
And you're saying, could you take me to a place that is cold because I have the recommendation of the doctor, right? So those are the personal things that we cannot ignore. So it's a whole plethora of things that you consider before you say, can this person go this place? Yes.
So it's not just an issue, of course, from your explanation of just waking up and deciding this ref should go here. In this particular
I would tell you that it's so painstaking that probably it takes me more than a month to plan for it. In fact, a joke has come up with the ministers. You can see in their forums, they talk about the laptop. You see this laptop here? Yeah, they talk about the laptop. There's so much hidden in this laptop. But you see, I have to think through. Before I even present it to the office of the General Assembly, I present each name with an explanation. Okay. Why am I taking this person here? It's because of this and this. And then the GO office will tell me, have you considered that this person served maybe 10 years ago? Maybe I don't have that history. And then we'll get back to the drawing desk, then we'll reconsider before we take the names to the appointment committee. Yes. All right.
So pleasant Kariuki, I hope that question has been answered very well. And DSG, in terms of the personal issues that you've spoken about, how about if it's a minister that has married a minister? Do you also consider their transfers?
Definitely, because that's a family issue, right? You don't want to take them again so far apart, right? So we really consider that as a family matter. We don't want to take them so far apart. We take them to places that probably they're able to manage their home well. Yes, we consider.
All right, and there's another question here by Sammy K. He's asking, what is the church doing about men who are denied full membership just because they are not solemnized? They've not solemnized their marriage, and Elizabeth Wakariuji right here is also agreeing with that.
That is a hot topic with the PCMF. Remember, it has come on the floor of the General Assembly, I think twice. There's an issue I know definitely is going to also to come in the floor of the General Assembly. So I wouldn't wish to preempt the discussion because definitely, as they say, it is an issue that worth discussion. However, remember that we have a PNP that is guided by the Practice and Procedure Manual. The Practice and Procedure Manual, as the SG, the Secretary General, said yesterday, is due for review. Actually, there is a business committee team that is working on it. And I hope that is going to become as one of the agendas in the forthcoming General Assembly. And I believe that also could be one of the issues for discussion. So why don't we see what the General Assembly will say. All
right. Yeah. And still on the issue of reverend transfers, are there times or are there instances where your office or your committee has transferred a reverend to a particular church and that church denies this particular reverend, or you want to transfer a particular reverend from a particular church and this church still, they're still clinging on this particular reverend, and how do you handle that?
Yes, it has happened. This is not something out of the blues. It does happen. And we try as much as possible to handle that together with the concerned presbytery. Remember, every appointment, every minister is sent not to a parish, but to a presbytery, because that is the paying station. You are sent to a presbytery with a recommendation to work in this parish. So if probably this parish would say, no, we don't want this minister, then we are in communication with the presbytery and see what to do. But remember, once the appointment committee finalizes and say, we have sent you to presbytery X to serve and to serve in parish X, you belong there. That's it. Until the next appointment. Because should the presbytery say no, should a parish say no, Do we sit again tomorrow? Do you call an appointment meeting tomorrow? No. You see, these are scheduled meetings. So like we had one in March, right? We finished with it. So the next one is coming in May. Okay. Right? If not in May, in September. So supposing we did that one in March and Parish X said we don't want this minister. So that minister belongs to you. You pay that minister until the next appointment committee. Yes.
All right. And other than, let's say, your decision, as you put it, once you've decided they have to have that particular minister, do you maybe send, that's a conflict, yeah? So how do you send, for example, an official or an officer there just to speak to these particular members so that you get to understand why they do not want this particular minister right there?
Now, what we do remember, that even before the appointment, there's a lot of communication and liaison with the presbyteries, right? And remember also I say that we look at the best from our assumption. I use the word assumption because definitely this is out of prayer also and consultation. We send Minister X to Presbytery Y, right? Should there be an issue, you know, we do talk with the Presbytery, right? We do talk with the minister, we do talk with the Presbytery concerned, but not particularly the parish, right? Because the parish, then for us, then we would be crossing the border of the Presbytery to go down to talk to a parish, because that is the work of the Presbytery. So the Presbytery will talk to the parish, we talk to the Presbytery, we can also talk to the minister and see how best we're able to handle that. But of course there have not been many cases. So far we've been able to handle. And in case there are going to be other cases that are going to come, we have an able DSG elect, remember, and an office of the General Assembly, 24th General Assembly, is going to handle that. So far we've been able to handle. Yes.
All right, and speaking of reverence transfers or ministers transfer, you will be a candidate very soon. In less than 7 days, you are exiting the DSG's office. Right. So how does the future look like for you, or what's the plan after exiting the DSG's office?
One of the good things, Ida, is that God has a good plan for me. Jeremiah 29 and verses 11, he says that he has good plans for me. And I believe that the future is bright. And I'm looking the future with a lot of optimism. But also remember, my first call and every call of the other minister is to be a minister of word and sacrament. Being an administrator here is just a privilege. It's just a call that God gives you. And remember, it's timed. It's a shelf life. Nobody's going to be here forever. Yeah. So we go to our first call. I'm looking forward to go to a parish and serve once again. I'm a minister of word and sacrament. I'm going to preach and administer a sacrament. Yes, so I'm looking forward to that. And again, remember, in this church, nobody sends or appoints themselves to a particular parish and says, I'm going down here. You are appointed by the committee. Yes, so I'll be waiting. Where I'll be sent, I will go. Yes.
All right, and just as we conclude, let me just get an opportunity to read a few of your comments right here on Facebook. So Zachary Kibera, you're saying you're watching, and of course you're appreciating your former parish minister, Reverend, right there. Wawero, you're saying you're watching a very educational program. Thank you so much. Salome Karimi, you're saying you're watching from Ihororo Parish, Nyeri Hill Presbytery. God bless you, Salome. Thank you for watching. And George, right here, you're saying you're watching for PCA Baraka Parish. A very insightful program. Asante sana, George. And Hannah, you're saying you're watching from Isili Parish. Thank you so much, Hannah, among many other that have had the opportunity to watch this particular broadcast tonight. And DSG, one last question before you give your parting shot. What is that one memorable moment that you've had in the 4 years that you've served as the Deputy Secretary General?
Before I come to that, Ida, allow me to say that, of course, that I've never gone for leave for the 4 years. So I'm looking forward to just go a bit and relax a bit, right? I was also pursuing studies at the Catholic University, PhD. I did coursework, but then to write my proposal, it coincided with the preparation of the GSE. And that is the last I saw my teacher. So once I leave this, I'm going back to probably studies. Also to thank God, because being so busy here, I've not probably given my quality time to my family. So I would also like to appreciate my wife Monica, Naizia, and Victor, and also Favor for the great support. Remember also there is a team of ministers, elders and members who've been praying for me, and I'm so grateful because of that. The issue of holding the two offices, it will never escape me, right? Being the SG and the DSG at the same time, I always joke with the current Secretary General, with all due respect. And I always tell him he demoted me because I felt a very big person then. Jokingly, yes, but then again, it was not easy, right? It was not easy holding those two offices. Then again, the very lowest moment when the Secretary General passed, when I was expecting some kind of mentorship. But I really appreciate, because of the opportunity that I've been given by God and this church to lead as the Deputy Secretary General for 4 years. Remember, in the 4 years, I have had to prepare 2 elections, right? Yes. The elections in the 23rd General Assembly and also the 24th General Assembly. I've been seeing over those elections. Preparing the 3 GACs, right? It's been such a privilege to see growth in this church. Remember, I said also, as a person handling the Boundaries Committee, I have seen the presbyteries grow from, I think, 58 to 61 right now. And I've been involved in all those subdivisions. So really, I thank God that I have had that opportunity. And also CAC TV, yes, to walk the journey with CAC TV, the far that it has come. We've held meetings here. Either you could remember the many meetings we've held here to see how CAC TV will grow and expand. And I want to thank God that CAC TV has been able to reach to so many people, even at this point. It's a privilege. I thank God for that privilege. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we'll call that your parting shot, or you have a parting shot?
Parting shot. My parting shot is that I'm here to support and pray with the 24th General Assembly officials. I wish them well. I'll be praying with them because I know that it's not easy to be here. When you're down there, you think everything up here is cozy, only to come and find it is so tough. And therefore, I'm going to stand with them. In the light of the global events, remember there are wars that are going around, you know, the climate change that might result in even to food shortage. We are talking about speculation of a second spike of COVID and all that, that might be even worse than the first COVID. You know, the future may look unpredictable, but I want to assure us all that there's a God in heaven, and he knows us. Let us be strong, because we are more than conquerors in everything. I urge the Presbyterian Church to be united. I would urge that all of us to be positive in our approach, and indeed, actually, to show respect and support to our leaders. They go through a lot. Let us pray for them. Let us pray for them. If you wouldn't mind, I would like to finish with a quote in Colossians 3:23 and verses 24. This is what the Bible says, that whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. We pray for a wonderful 24th General Assembly. The future is bright. Thank you, Aida.
All right. Thank you so much, DSG. And there's one thing that I've just remembered. You've mentioned of how, very briefly, you've mentioned of how you are looking upon a mentor that is from Reverend Kanya. To the incoming DSG, Reverend Bai, what will be your word to him?
One thing, Aida, you may not know is that I am walking every step with the incoming DSG designate. I'm not leaving him anywhere because of the gap that I had in mentorship. I want to mentor him in everything so that once he takes office, there will be no gaps. I joke with him, I tell him I don't envy him because of the work ahead of him. But I wish him God's blessing. I know he is equal to the task, and by the grace of God and the support of the other officers of the General Assembly, because you cannot here work in isolation. You need to work together. So I know he will make it. With that support, he should not fear. God is with you, Reverend Bai, and I know that he will make it together with the Secretary General, the moderator, and the honorary treasurer of the 24th General Assembly. I wish you God's blessings.
Amen. Thank you so much, DSG, for that. And dear viewer, that's where we end our conversation tonight. Remember, this was an exclusive interview with the Deputy Secretary General, that is Reverend Paul Kariuki, who has served in the 22nd General Assembly as well as the 23rd General Assembly. The Reverend has shared his journey. He shared his journey into ministry, his challenges, and of course, some of the things and as well as opportunities that he's been able to achieve as the DSG. And of course, his parting shot, or what the future holds for him, he quotes Jeremiah 29:11, that he believes that the Lord has good plans for him. So thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow, of course, that is my colleague Vincent Kerosi will be hosting another exclusive interview with the Honorary Treasurer at exactly 8 p.m. So tune in and get to understand more, even as we get into the 24th General Assembly. Thank you so much once again for tuning in. Thank you for making this particular conversation interactive. My name is Aida Munzati. Have a blessed night.